Welcome back to another fascinating episode. Today, we are diving into an often overlooked yet booming sector of digital media, Africa's podcast landscape. In 2025, these are the voices shaping conversations across the continent, building impressive audiences and creating content that resonates with millions. So, let's break down the numbers and stories behind Africa's top 10 podcasts. Coming in at number 10 is kenyanpodcast from Kenya, with over 38 million views and 152,000 YouTube subscribers. Kenyanpodcast is a Kenyan podcast that strives to inspire, inform, educate, and entertain. The host of Kenyan sits with everyone from artists to politicians, comics to lawyers, atheists, and believers. Run by Mwaf, this controversial yet engaging platform has mastered the art of debate and conversation. Their most famous episode, titled Death and Sex at State House, with over 432,000 views, sparked a lot of controversies and conversations across East Africa. At number 9 is the Sizwe Mpofu Walsh Experience, known as SMWX podcast from South Africa. This podcast is the go-to source for insightful and thought-provoking conversations on South African current affairs. The podcast features analysis and interviews with experts, leaders, and influencers who shape the future of South Africa. From politics to social issues and culture, the podcast explores the topics that matter most. With well over 22 million lifetime views and 180,000 subscribers, they have created a space for underground culture and music. Their episode featuring Floyd Shivambu, the national organizer of MK Party and former EFF deputy president, became their most viral content with over 800,000 views. Coming in at number 8 is Relebongile Mapoja Talk Show, hosted by Relebongile Mapoja. This podcast unpacks difficult issues and real stories within South Africa. A veteran broadcaster, Relebongile's in-depth interviews with South African personalities have become legendary. Episode 26, titled Raped by My Father, remains the channel's most watched content, with over 2.1 million views and 226,000 subscribers at the time of recording of this video. At number 7 is the Kenyan podcast 3 Men Army, founded by Frank, Trevor, and Dante. This trio brings humor to serious topics. The episode 52, titled Church Ushering featuring King Kalala, became their most viral content, with over 548,000 views, sparking nationwide conversations. The podcast YouTube channel has well over 231,000 subscribers, with over 32.1 million lifetime views as at the recording of this video. Coming in at number 6 is the Nigerian podcast with Chud, hosted by Chud Chideonwo. This podcast has become Nigeria's premier interview destination. With Chud, podcast has become the safest, warmest space for African celebrities and leaders to talk about things publicly for the first time. Chud's conversation with Juliet Ibrahim remains the podcast channel's most watched episode, with over 1.4 million views. Tackling mental health and celebrity pressure, the podcast channel has over 28.4 million lifetime views, with 242,000 subscribers as at the time of the recording of this video. At number 5 is the Open Chat podcast from South Africa, led by Kama and Donald. Their raw approach to taboo subjects has created a safe space for difficult conversations. The podcast is by the youth and for the youth. With the help of various guest speakers, they address relevant, interesting topics in society with an aim to enrich minds with different perspectives surrounding the discussed norms of the society. Their most watched episode is titled Betrayal and More, broke records with unprecedented engagements of over 558,000 views. The podcast has well over 18.3 million lifetime views and 256,000 subscribers. Coming in at number 4 is Good Company Podcast, better known as Mics Are Open Podcast from Kenya. Hosted by G Money, Calvin, Neville, Ashley, and Andy Young, this platform tackles everything from lifestyle to mental health. The podcast has over 89.5 million lifetime views with 297,000 subscribers. At number 3 is the Honest Bunch podcast from Nigeria. This podcast from Glitch Africa Studios claims to be the number 1 destination for the best of talks and podcasts. Hosted by Nedu, Husband Material, Deity Cole, and Azain, this podcast has revolutionized how African podcast is consumed. Their most popular podcast is Episode 1, Season 4, titled Dealing with Success, featuring the Nigerian controversial artist Portable. This episode became their most watched. Despite starting in 2022, they have become the go-to platform for African and Nigerian podcasts, with over 37.6 million lifetime views and 419,000 subscribers. It is one of the largest podcasts in Africa. Coming in at number 2 is Abel Mutua Podcast Channel from Kenya. Known affectionately as Mkurugenzi, Abel's podcast YouTube channel is a storytelling platform created for the sole purpose of entertaining, educating, and informing. Abel's most famous episode is titled The 3-Man Army, with well over 1.3 million views. His storytelling technique about his journey from a TV anchor to a content creator resonates deeply with his audience. His YouTube podcast channel commands well over 123 million lifetime views and over 698,000 subscribers. At the number 1 spot, we have the Podcast and Chill Network from South Africa. With an astronomical 1.4 million subscribers and over 335 million views, they are dominating the space. What's even more impressive, they have consistently produced content with over 2,200 videos. Their success lies in their raw and filtered discussions about South African culture, politics, and entertainment. The podcast is hosted by Mageva Mukwevo as the main host, alongside Sol Fenduka and a host whose name is not revealed but is referred to as the Ghost Lady. The Ghost Lady makes no appearance on the camera but takes part and plays an important role in the podcast. Their most viral episode is episode 434 titled Black Coffee, reaching over 3.9 million views. Before we conclude this video, we can note some interesting patterns emerge when we analyze the viewing habits of podcasts YouTube channels in Africa. 1. We see that South African channels tend to focus more on entertainment and culture. 2. We notice that Kenyan podcasts lean towards storytelling and social commentary. 3. We observe that Nigerian content often combines entertainment with social impact. The viewing patterns show fascinating trends. Podcast and Chill Network averages 146,000 views per video. Abel Mutua's podcast channel achieves about 256,000 views per episode, and the Honest Bunch podcast by Glitch Africa Studios maintains an impressive 153,000 views per video despite being the newest kid on the block. These channels represent more than just numbers. They are cultural touchstones reshaping African digital media. From Magiva's unfiltered approach to Chud's emotional interviews, each brings something unique to the landscape. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analysis of digital trends and success stories.